Bridges are stronger when built from both sides.
Let's connect.
Let's connect. In the middle.
Hello and welcome to Building Bridges, a show on the Greensboro Television Network that highlights ways members of the public and members of the Greensboro Police Department can connect with each other. I'm your host, Sandra Hughes, and we have an exciting program planned for you today. On this show, we will introduce you to members of the Greensboro Police Department's motor unit, and we'll talk the new role of these officers on motorcycles. Now, let's start by introducing our guest today. Okay, right here on my left is Sergeant Ben Altizer. Next to him is supervisor of the motor unit. Then there's Dion Carter, who's an officer, and next to him is Officer Brian Price, two of the motor officers. Nice to have you guys with us. I was hoping we'd have a motorcycle in here so we could jump on and ride around the studio a little bit. Okay, I give up. I understand that this is a new kind of operation. Tell us about that.
Yes, ma'am, it is. We have a history of a motor unit in the Greensboro Police Department, but within the last 10 years, it seems that we've had officers retire from the department, and those positions haven't been filled. Mm-hmm. So Chief Scott, in conjunction with the command staff from the Special Operations Division, decided they wanted to bring the motor unit back.
So is that a good idea?
I think it's one of the greatest ideas that you can bring to a police department.
A motor unit?
A motor unit.
Why you say that?
It's a good way to, from my little experience, to connect with the public and folks of the community. We actually they feel a little more we've seen that, give that impression of that we're more approachable. First thing they notice about us is, oh, those boots, is it because it's winter, is it cold, or why you got those boots on? And we show them the motorcycles and explain to them what the uniform stands for.
So explain to us what the uniform stands for.
Sure, absolutely. It's absolutely just designed for protection, mainly because you have the tall boots, so protects your legs and obviously from getting burned and things like that on the Harley Davidsons and the other motorcycles. And the pants are actually designed differently from a regular uniform pants. They actually are stretchable and they're designed, and they're a little more form-fitting for the fact being that you don't want things loose and blowing around and getting caught into things. We have specific gloves we wear, as well as specific helmets, radio gear. Everything's unique to that position.
Is it too much? I mean, when you need to get into action with the helmet and the boots and the gloves and is that kind of keeping you from being as active as you would be?
Not at all. It's just an extension of who you are. I mean, just like you had to get used to wearing, your bullet restraint vests and the gear that we wear every day, and these belts and all the heavy things that we wear. You just got to get used to it. But that being said, we receive a lot of training and a lot of experience before we even hit the roads full time with these.
Can you tell us how many officers are involved in this?
Yes, ma'am. There's as far as being full-time, there's going to be 4 full-time motor officers, myself as a supervisor, and Officer Price as an alternative member, meaning if we have an officer that is scheduled for training or vacation or any other issues, that we'll call on Officer Price, who will act as a fill-in for the unit.
So does it take a lot of training?
Yes, ma'am. It actually is really continuous training. The initial training consists of 2 weeks of a motor officer school where officers learn primarily how to operate the motorcycles at slow speed, which is really challenging to do. There's some high speed traffic stops and really some just maneuvering and avoiding collisions in motorcycles.
Good. So you've had this training, right?
That's
what was
correct.
the most difficult in learning it?
You have to be very vigorous. You have to have the mental and the physical capabilities to be able to handle, because the most challenging thing was just myself, knowing what the mistakes were and how to correct those things, and just things happen and you get better at it as you continue to train.
So this isn't like what we see when we see a citizen riding a motorcycle. It's different?
I believe it's very, very much different. I'm also a motorcycle rider of 15 years prior to police motorcycle riding, and it's a total different world.
So how did you get selected for this motor unit?
Well, I've been on the motor unit since July of 2001, and I was
Oh.
full-time for about 5 years. And then after 5 years, at the point that transition over into a car, and the opportunity came, but still get to ride on occasion, so I took that opportunity.
So how does this change what you had been doing as a police officer now on the motorcycle?
Oh wow, it's a 180. The fact being is you got to be able to speak with people. You know, you found out really quick that you were so approachable. Like Officer Carter said just earlier, people want to come up to you and talk to you. I actually enjoyed that part of it because people just love to come and talk about the motorcycle. They may come up to it, have no clue about a motorcycle, and they may ask you some of the most off-the-wall questions. But it's an intention to try to be able to just to speak to you and find out a little bit more about it. And most police officers enjoy talking with people. That's the reason we get into the job. I mean, we enjoy being around people and helping folks. So that being said, just gives you another opportunity to engage and let you know that we're not as scary as sometimes you think we are.
Well, that's one of the things that we are doing here on this show, Building Bridges, is showing citizens that police officers are just like them. It's just their job to keep us safe, you know, and make sure everything goes all right. I'm disappointed that we have a table here instead of a motorcycle, because I had planned today when I heard about this that I was going to get on that motorcycle, maybe not go anywhere, but at least sit on it.
We
So
enforced the laws, but we couldn't change the laws of physics to get that bike here.
no, you couldn't. What's the hardest thing about working with the motorcycles?
I think it's the mental challenge, really, and that you're combining two dangerous practices of police work and riding a motorcycle together. And you have the aspect of functioning as a law enforcement officer and also riding a motorcycle in a safe and effective manner. So I think that's challenging, and also the I would have to say some of the weather elements too, with winter approaching and just staying wearing the gear to stay warm, and then the extreme heat is also challenging on officers. You know, staying hydrated is important, but for me, that's probably the biggest challenges of being a motor officer.
That sounds, so do you ever get a chance to just be another street, I mean, I don't know what to call it, not a motorcycle officer, but one that drives a car and walks around? Do you ever get that opportunity?
In inclement weather, we may have to transition from riding motorcycles for the safety of the officers and transition into a motor vehicle.
What are people saying when they see you on the motorcycle, or if you're stopped and they see your motorcycle?
It ranges from what year model is that motorcycle to is that a Honda? I mean, they're just not sure what to say, but there again, they're looking for something just to be able to engage, and we get thumbs up, we get people, in just the short time I've gotten some of these guys out and trained with them some and showing them some things, that they're just amazed that people just want to take pictures. I mean, we're taking test drives on the new bikes the other day and riding down Highway 220. And we were getting honks on the horn and thumbs up, and it's just a short distance. And I said, this is actually the cool part of it. You know, it's something unique, it's something different, and again, it makes us very approachable and gives us an opportunity to just show that, you know, you can talk to us, it's okay, and we'll talk back.
Good. Well, that's what I was saying. I wish we had one right here so I could talk about it.
I'd like to add that motorcycle people are passionate about motorcycles.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
they really are. And that, like Officer Price said, that this is something that really, it brings the community to us. And we have just our limited tenure of being a unit is really, we've had some really positive feedback from everyone we encounter.
Goodness. So are you finding that people are accepting you more when you're on the cycle than if you were in a car?
I believe it's just a different acceptability as far as what folks are saying. It engages, it causes folks to engage with us or initiate that conversation, and it's a great feeling.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. When I'm riding along and if I see a police car ride by, I don't turn to look at it. But if I see a motorcycle, yeah, I want to see more of that and see who's on it and who's doing it. Any females in the unit?
No females in the unit. However, we actively recruited a few. We hope to have some in the future. There are female motor officers across the state and other agencies as well that we've actually trained with before. They can handle them just as well as the males can.
Yeah.
Even though they are sometimes smaller in stature, it's nothing about size. It's all technique, and like Officer Carter said, it's mental. I will tell you that's probably one of the most challenging courses I'd ever been through back in 2001, that 2 weeks. kind of mirrored it with maybe something like a fighter pilot, because you are handlebar to handlebar with 15 or 20 people in the high rate of speeds doing maneuvers that you have to trust, because one slip up and it could be a canceled Christmas moment.
Oh, that hurts. Tell me, do you patrol certain units or certain areas instead of all areas?
Actually, we are responsible for the entire city of
I see.
Greensboro. And really what determines what areas we patrol are where the citizens want us. When we receive traffic complaints such as speeding through communities, through neighborhoods, or running traffic signals, they could forward those complaints through a myriad of methods, and those are then filtered down to us, and that really determines what area of Greensboro that we patrol.
Okay, so obviously now people who see you, you know, in the boots and the uniform, it's different. And here again, what we're trying to do on this show is to build bridges between police officers and the citizens. Are you feeling that that's working for you on the cycle?
I feel that it is working, definitely working.
Any particular example?
We get, again, folks just initiate conversation, and it'll last 10 minutes sometimes, and it'll start by, you look nice in those boots, and even walking in the building here, just folks couldn't hesitate to just not say nothing to us. So they didn't hesitate; they just wanted to talk and was interested in what this uniform was all about.
Well, it is. I mean, it's different, and so everybody wants to know why it's different. Do you feel good about that?
Absolutely. It establishes a sense of pride. I mean, it's something that every one of us, you know, we're proud to work for the Greensboro Police Department, but there again, it's just something extra special once you don this uniform as a motor officer here with the city of Greensboro and get the opportunity to look sharp, stand tall.
Yeah.
It's a sense of pride, and I think it sometimes actually probably it's very evident a lot of times, and not to the point where you're too proud you can't talk to people, but the fact being that it's just something that you can feel good about. You're actually making a difference. And, you know, ultimately you're hopefully impacting people's lives in a positive way.
Now, when I close my eyes and think about an officer on a motorcycle, I think about someone who has the ability to go around cars, in between cars. You know, if there's a crowded area somewhere or something, that you can get to where you need to be, whereas you couldn't do it in a car, right?
Absolutely. That is one of the really unique advantages of having motorcycles is our ability to actually maneuver in tight spaces. We actually did it yesterday when Secretary Clinton was in town.
Oh my.
And we were made our way through traffic that, you know, due to the time of day that she visited. Yeah, we actually were able to make our way through traffic quicker and get to other locations that the Secretary was going to visit. So it actually was a benefit to us as recently as yesterday.
And
Are horses coming?
and that's also one of the benefits of the motor school, the 2 weeks of the slow rides and hard turns left, hard turns right, for that realistic style of riding here in the streets.
Oh, that is cool. I'm really excited about it, and I didn't get to get on one, but anyway, I'm excited about it. It's time for us to take a quick break, so please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Building Bridges, a monthly show that brings together police and community members to make our cities safer. I'm your host, Sandra Hughes, and today we're talking about GPD's revitalized motor unit with Sergeant Ben Alzheimer, Officer Dion Carter, and Officer Brian Price. Please let us talk a little bit now about the motorcycles and what makes them so special. And I'm sure I messed up your last name. It's
Altizer.
Altizer. There you go. I got it
right.
now. What makes the motorcycle so special?
Well, the 2017s is a big deal for Harley-Davidson, and Harley-Davidson has been around since the early 1900s, and the motor that is in this brand new model that we purchased is only the third totally ground-up redesign of an engine in the history of a motor company. So when Harley-Davidson brings out a new engine, that's a big deal. I mean, it really is. And there's been a host of improvements made by Harley-Davidson to the new motorcycles in that they're a little larger displacement, so they'll give us just a little bit more power. They're also, with increased power, they've also been able to achieve better fuel economy and lower vehicle emissions from from the motorcycle. And there's also some additional technologies that will allow the engine to operate at cooler temperatures, which will serve for the longevity of the motorcycles themselves, as also the comfort of the officer riding the motorcycle.
So would you rather be on the motorcycle or in a car?
Motorcycle,
All the time?
without a doubt.
Okay, without a doubt. We also found out that this unit has something to do with the NOP, the Neighborhood Oriented Policing. Tell me about that.
If you like to
Okay.
elaborate a little.
Sure, basically it's going to be an extension of neighborhood-oriented policing, and the fact being that one of the chief complaints that officers as well as the chief, they were going to community meetings and they were getting speeding complaints. Of all the things that were coming up, speeding is the #1 cause of concerns and complaints. And right now the traffic unit is in place, and they were having a hard time and difficult time keeping up with the highways, the major thoroughfares, in addition to try to supplement with the neighborhoods. Well, the neighborhoods were suffering as well. So the chief approached and had this idea. He used to be a traffic officer, and I actually rode a motorcycle. So he got to the point that he wants to reestablish this because he saw how effective it was and impactful it can be. You can actually take just a few motorcycles. I remember this back in '02 and '03. And we were still a fairly new unit at that point. We would go into an area with 2 or 3 motorcycles, and they would think that we would get calls up, hey, thanks for being out here. The citizens were great with it. They were calling up giving thanks and appreciation, saying there was probably 15 or 20 motorcycles out here. There weren't. At the time, we only had 4.
Yeah.
But there again, it's just the perception of the fact being. And the whole idea is not to see how many citations we can write. It's to protect lives and property. That's the reason we're out there doing it. We don't get anything special from writing the citations or any extra monies from it. The fact being is we've seen the devastation that causes from crashes and the speeds increase. So therefore, we believe in it. The fact being, if we can just visually get people to comply with the speed by just being in place, and they see that black and white motorcycle with that officer on there, they know that officer's probably not out there just looking for lost cats. They're out there to write tickets.
Yeah, okay. So in other words, let's say if the whole police unit had a lot more motorcycles, would that be good?
I think after the first year, I think it'd be something that we want to evaluate and see if maybe that if the unit is effective, which I wholeheartedly believe it's going to be. But one of the benefits that we're going to have as a motor unit is keeping with Chief Scott's best practices in a neighborhood-oriented policing model. And what we're actually going to do is if you as a citizen wants to lodge a complaint, say you have an issue in your neighborhood, a police officer is going to personally call you, speak with you, and get the particulars of what your complaint is. And that way we can get a idea of the hours and any specific time of day that the majority of the violations are occurring.
So that helps you then, doesn't it? If people tell you or call you and say, this is what happens every day at 6 o'clock.
It helps a whole lot because then you know where to put your focus. You know where to help out your communities where you're having these traffic issues.
Because a lot of people have things happen and they wait until something bad happens, then they call the police, right? So this way, people can call you like ahead of something disastrous that could happen.
Yeah, and nowadays with the emails too, we receive emails and we make notes and we work those areas where those complaints come in.
Good grief, how can you handle that in a motorcycle too?
Sandra, can I also just let you know how that process would go? Once the citizen files, the link of the complaint that's going to be given here in just a few minutes, they'll be able to go and the officer will receive it within, a day or less. Once that is received, we'll be able to log it. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to assess it. We're going to go out, we're going to have an officer will make contact with every one of those complainants that called in to find out exactly what they're seeing and what the problem is. There's several different things that we're going to do to follow up with that. First of all, we have several different instruments that we can use, not in addition just to radar, but we can actually put in place what's called a stealth stat. And we can actually take this box and set it into a neighborhood, and it'll do a speed count without an officer having to sit there and count that. So it'll count traffic in both directions. That way, once it's done, it's probably usually between 24 and 48-hour analysis. And we can take that data, analyze it, and say, okay, we've got our major speeding problems between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. And we'll match it with what the citizen complaint would be. Then that way we know when to go out there and focus our enforcement efforts. Another thing that you'll see in this would be speed enforcement, radar signs and radar trailers that we'll be able to put in place. The public may not realize that, hey, look, it's a 25 miles per hour zone and I'm driving 37. I might need to slow down.
Excuse me.
In addition to that, they're going to be followed up with enforcement. If we find out that for sure it is a valid speeding issue, and this is going to happen relatively fast, it sounds like it's going to be a complex situation, but you'll see officers respond pretty quickly to this because we can take that data and download it within a few minutes.
Yeah, so we're not killing time
Absolutely
anymore.
not. And it's great. It's just another way that we can use technology to help improve our effectiveness.
So tell us how, in other ways, the NOP helps.
Sandra, we're problem solvers. We get out there, we get results. We address the complaints. We reach out to additional resources if need be. If we have to get traffic signs, stop signs, four-way stop signs.
Sure. There's other avenues in addition to what Officer Carter was saying. You know, we can actually contact and we can work with. We would develop a relationship with city and state engineers for the roadways for the Department of Transportation, and we can actually employ them to help us in problem solving this. Even though, you know, the officers are able to understand the problems, a lot of times we don't have the resources available to us. However, because of these relationships and these bridges we've established with other agencies, we're able to reach out to them by name and call them up, and they work with us really well. It's a great partnership with that. But that being said, we have an issue we've had come up several times before, and we're able to call these people up, and it's proved to be successful and a pretty quick, you know, end result, which proved positive. So.
Now, we've talked about resource officers, community-oriented officers. Is this different?
I think it's not really different at all. I mean, ultimately, we are an extension of the police department, and our primary goal is to build the bridges with the community. And again, like I said earlier, you know, one of the things that we want to do when we receive a traffic complaint from a citizen, we are going to make contact with that person either by telephone or sometimes even in person so that they can direct us specifically where we need to go. So I think this is a great opportunity given the motorcycles and the passion that people have and the different uniform and the questions and really the children, they seem intrigued by us also.
They do.
So
I
it's
can
just
imagine.
I think it's a great opportunity for us to really connect with the community and solve issues and be the problem solvers that we're needed to be.
Now, speaking of issues, this is a fine-looking helmet, but it's different than the others I've seen before, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so
It
explain
is.
why this one is different.
Well, Sandra, we chose, well, we actually reviewed several different helmets, and just to let you know, this one is actually brand new to us, and it's brand new to the unit. But that being said, some of the helmets we've had in the past are quarter helmets, and they didn't offer as much protection. It allowed a lot of ventilation in, and you think about it, when it's 95, 100 degrees and we're on these things, it's very hot. But that being said, we tried to find the most protection that we can find without being, you know, covering up our face too much and being more accessible to the public. With that being said, we've chosen this Arai helmet is specifically made for police use. There's several different things I could tell you about it, but not to get too into detail, but the fact being that it has ventilation that we have. These vents were, when we tested these helmets, we had different officers come in and we tested them in different various circumstances, but these vents allow ventilation, or you can close them if it's colder. Also, it has radio communications built in to the helmet. And in the past, some of our older equipment, we had to actually plug this cord into the bike, which kind of limited you a little bit. But now the newer technology, as things have progressed, we're able to plug this in directly to it. And we can be off the bike and communicate with our helmet directly with communications without having to be attached to the bike itself.
But it looks heavy. It's real heavy.
It is, but it looks heavy, but not really. By the time you get it on your head and support it, it's fine. And it's one of the more lighter weight, but it has obviously the level of DOT protection that we were looking for. We want to get the maximum amount of protection and also just remain accessible. And again, you know, you have the visor, and it is what we call a 3/4 helmet. It doesn't have a separate face shield, but you know, we will have, you know, obviously winter gear. If there's extreme cold conditions and things like that, we will wear in addition to it. But again, this is one that we chose, what we thought was one of the better. And the good news about it is this helmet is specific to Greensboro. There's no other helmet similar to it anywhere. We actually had these custom painted by a local vendor here, and we've known him for years. He's done a lot of things for us, and he's actually custom painted it for Greensboro Police.
It's interesting what you say that this is strictly Greensboro. What about motorcycle units in other cities or states? I mean, surely there have to be some, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how the other motorcycle units in other states, how their helmets are being. I'm new and newly discovering the motorcycle world with police department. So
So how do you feel about this helmet?
I love it. It's one thing I like about it is communication. If we're out and we're actually on the road, we can actually communicate with each other versus the closed face helmet, where you can't read each other's lips, so you can't really hear what someone is saying. And is again, if someone from the community comes and want to talk to you, you can talk with your helmet on it, and they just feel like they can see your face. They don't
Okay.
you don't seem so closed off. And
Yeah,
so it's
because if
great
it's
for that.
covering your face, we don't know who's behind that helmet,
That's
right?
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so tell me how people get in touch with you if they want to give you information about something that could be happening.
Probably the easiest way is through our departmental website, and it's just gsopd.org. And that's the easiest way. And there will be links for making a traffic complaint. It's a very short form, and it will walk you through the steps of information that we need, additional for name, phone numbers, and within a short period of time, I would say if it's received during the week, we'll expect a call back the next day. That's our goal, is to hear the complaints and let them know that these complaints are important to us and address them in an expedient and effective manner.
I know because if I call you, what's today? Friday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. I don't want to wait 2 weeks before you call
Correct.
me back.
Right.
Yeah.
And our goal is going to be, within, I would say, 28 to 48 hours of
That's
receipt
great.
of the complaint.
That is great. Is this unit going to grow?
I don't know if there's any plans for expansion at this moment. I don't. I think there's been discussion of potentially in the future to maybe expand it out, but I think right now we're just focused on really training getting myself and the other officers trained to a level to where we can operate safely. And I would hope to think that, given this is my passion, motorcycles and law enforcement, that one day, if we prove to be truly effective, that we will expand the unit.
So are you ready to expand, or help other cities expand or get involved in this? Let's say a city somewhere in North Carolina sees what you're doing and say, gee, we want to do that. Is your unit ready to help someone else learn to do this?
I think one of the key things is training. Train hard, and as much training as it's going to take. That I think that we definitely can reach out to anyone in the nation to help with any police department.
That's great. Do you want to see it grow?
Absolutely. I've seen how effective it is, and again, being a little over 15 years and being actively involved with a motor unit, I've just seen the value there. There for a while, we kind of lost it. Officers retired out, moved off, and it dwindled down to just 1, 2 officers at a point, and it really lost its impact. It's a really sharp thing to see when you see 4, 5, 6 motorcycles move into an area. You know that, okay, they're there to try to give a visual appearance, to make sure that people get back and forth where they need to be safely. And the overall goal is in police work, and for us as well, is to protect lives and property. And we want to make sure that that impact stays here. We see what motor vehicles can do to people, and just how speed plays a big impact in that. That being said, if just our presence being in an area and the visual, if nothing else, the visual of the officers being on motorcycles slows people down, I think we've accomplished our goal.
Well, I would imagine that large groups, like when people who are running for president or state governor or whatever come around, that's when you really go out there, right?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Really, any time a dignitary comes to visit us here in Greensboro, the Special Operation Division is actively involved in all those visits that we have. Now, where the motorcycles could really be beneficial is our ability to navigate in confined spaces through traffic and get there in a quick manner.
I mean, that's what I see in my brain.
Sure.
Is motorcycles going around cars and between cars, and I know you're not breaking the law, but you can get to a place quicker than if you were in a car and get jammed on the road and can't get past them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so this has got to be great. What about schools? I can imagine that you would need to take this idea to let kids know what you're doing. Is that right?
That's correct, and that's the kids are the future. So going to the schools, reaching out to the kids is very important, and it's a different approach as well. They're very interested in motorcycles, so it's a good way to reach out to them.
Well, I'm sure we're talking about building bridges between citizens and police officers. It doesn't hurt to start early. right? When they're little, so that they don't grow up thinking, oh, this is scary. You know, I don't want to talk about it. Do you have plans to do anything like that, like special programs?
Oh, absolutely. We're already actually doing it. We have them planned as well. We've been contacted by a few elementary schools, and they want us to come by and speak with them, and we're totally open to that. Groups, because obviously if we reach those children, as a officer, a veteran officer, I can remember back, Officer Walker, I mean, a small town I was from, Officer Walker, when we were in elementary school, he was in OP before anyone knew what that meant.
Yeah.
Officer Walker would come by for nothing else, just to visit at the school every once in a while. We're out there at recess, hang out with us. We had our pictures made. I remember a picture from my old yearbook, picture with Officer Walker, you know,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. So that being said, that stuck in my mind, even to this day, so I can definitely see how that would be a great way to build a bridge.
Oh, yes, that's exactly right. Here again, we can't focus on just building bridges with adults. We've got to do it with children, because children today are different than children when I was a child. Don't you agree?
As a parent, I would
Yes,
agree. They
that's
are.
certainly right. Well, I am very proud of what you all are doing. Any last information you want to give out before we turn off?
No, I just really am very fortunate to have this opportunity and to be in this position with the motor unit. And again, I really want to stress the importance of how we can incorporate into the neighborhood ordering policing model. And our goal is to really build bridges and be those problem solvers and be a positive point of contact. Because let's face it, in a lot of neighborhoods, you know, dangerous driving is a concern. It's a concern in my neighborhood, and I see it as just with my own family. So having the opportunity to actually have an impact is very rewarding, and I'm very proud to be able to do that.
So one of my granddaughters getting ready to get a driver's license. So I need to tell her about motorcycles,
Yes.
police on motorcycles, so she'll pay attention. Any last word? This has been wonderful. I'm glad to hear about it. And
You know, people may think, you know, well, don't they have something better to do? You know, we get that a lot of times. You know, we hear it sometimes. You know, why are you writing tickets? There's people out there breaking into cars or whatever the case may be. Well, if you look nationally, and even here in Greensboro, North Carolina, as well, if you lump all the other crimes, part one, which is burglaries and things like that, all these major crimes into one category, let's just look at economics and nothing else. Let's keep everything else aside. The impact far outweighs, it's over 200 times greater an impact from a motor vehicle collision as opposed to all other crimes combined.
Wow.
So really, you know, you think about it, most people may go through their entire lives and never be a victim of a burglary. However, most people will be a victim of a speed-related crash.
I can see that every day. Well, I thank you all very much for being with us today, and I want to get on that motorcycle one of these days.
Thank you.
Well, I think this has been a wonderful show, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. To find out more about this new motorized unit in the Greensboro Police Department, this is certainly a unit you can be proud of, and one that can really, really help make our roadways safer, help you in your neighborhood. So thank you for what you all are doing, and then you at home, make sure you get in touch with these units if you need to. We have the website. Just go to the website for the Greensboro Police Department. Until next time, I'm Sandra Hughes, so you be safe. See you then.
This show was funded in part by the Greensboro Police Foundation, an independent nonprofit organization whose mission is to enhance Greensboro's economic strength by promoting the safest city possible for its residents, workers, and visitors through support of the Greensboro Police Department. For more information about the Greensboro Police Foundation, visit www.greensboropolicefoundation.org.